It's election season for city government, and you want to cast an informed vote. One Ogden is here with the voices and faces of the people stepping up to represent you. Kevin Lundell is a candidate for Ogden City Council at-large seat B.
I grew up in the Ogden area. Yeah, I've been my whole life. I grew up in Uinta, and so right across the border from Ogden. Ogden has always been home, you know. And my dad, he built a chiropractic practice in Ogden in the early '80s, and so Ogden has been home. And as a matter of fact, my grandparents built a house in Ogden in 1940s. And so my family has spent a lot of time in Ogden. My mother was an Ogden High teacher for 17 years as well. So yeah, Ogden's home.
Did you always want to stay, or did you think you were going to leave ever?
I always was coming back to Ogden. I spent 3 years in chiropractic college in the Bay Area, and I enjoyed my time there. I really, really liked it there, but we were always coming back. Ogden's home.
What's your professional educational background?
I'm a doctor of chiropractic, and so I've spent a lot of time learning about the human body, and have spent a big chunk of my life invested in health and just trying to make the world and our community a healthier place, and just trying to improve people's life through that.
And so do you think that's prepared you for municipal office?
Definitely. Particularly, I spent 10 years, I founded Roy CrossFit and spent 10 years running that CrossFit gym. And running a CrossFit gym is just like building a community. It's a tight group of folks, and you get that group together, and it turns into a place that really is people's second home. And so holding that group together and uniting them and putting on activities and doing those things really has prepared me for that. Running two businesses at the same time, opening two businesses on the same day 10 years ago was a gigantic risk that ended up paying off. And there's a lot to be learned in that process, from budgeting to just the nitty gritty of, working with the city to get open, and that process. And so, yeah, I think I've learned a lot through those.
And so what led to you running for office?
Great question. Actually, matter of fact, the last time I was here with you, we were talking, and you were like, are you ever going to run for office? What are you going to do? And at the time, my answer was, look, it doesn't have to be me. And that's still true today. At that time, Katie Matheson was running in the at-large seat. That was the only seat I possibly could have ran for, and she was great. And it definitely didn't have to be me at that time. This time, it was really the Aspen House, which was the catalyst that propelled me into the race. And the Aspen House was a long-term care facility that had since been, it was vacant. And Weber Housing Authority had a plan to come in and house 25 homeless disabled adults in this facility. It was a wonderful plan. Weber Housing Authority was going to move their offices to the location so that they could provide 24-hour case management to these folks. It was fully funded. There was $5 million worth of homeless services money that was going to be flooded into Ogden. And all the city council had to do was say yes. And I quickly started to learn that these votes were probably not in our favor. 4-3 against us. And I went to work. And I met with any of the council members that I thought would be persuadable. We held an open house. We organized an open house and had over 200 people to the event. And the vibes were so good. People wanted this facility to be in our neighborhood. And then we got over 100 people to city council meeting. And these were folks around the neighborhood. We canvassed the neighborhood with flyers. And we got them to the council meeting, and overwhelmingly the comments at council meeting were, this is a good thing for our city. We want this for our city. And the result is that they didn't end up listening to those. And being one vote short, I realized that it was something that maybe I could be that next vote. And not seeing anyone else in this race at this time, I thought after that kind of organizing effort, it was me. And that whole process actually led me to some really important other discoveries. And that is the city ended up buying that facility back from Weber Housing Authority for $2.2 million. And as I sat on that street in front of the building at about 10 o'clock at night, just contemplating what had happened, I realized that that street was dark. And I actually went to the closest intersection. I looked down all 4 intersections. There was only one working street light. And the sidewalks are cracked. And that $2.2 million came out of a fund called the Quality Neighborhoods Initiative. And I couldn't help but think, what could $2.2 million do to help make that neighborhood quality? And that's why I'm running, is we need to rethink some of our priorities. And I think that means investing in the people who live in Ogden.
That project had been moving along for a while. Like, how did you even realize it was in peril? Like it was something that you needed to get involved in?
Well, I'm a nerd, and so I go back and I listen to the city council meetings and work sessions. I don't often attend them live. I tune into the podcast and I flip it on 1.5 times speed. And there was a work session about it, and I heard about it and I thought, wow, this is something that I want to get behind and I want to help. And so then I started kind of reaching out and just started kind of trying to, for better or worse, whip the votes, like where do people stand? Where's the mayor stand? And so when I learned about that, it was, I thought I need to get to work and get involved in this. And then I reached out to Andy Beatles, the executive director of Weber Housing Authority. And I actually had her on my podcast, and I asked her lots of tough questions. I actually asked the community, hey, what are some reasons why you think maybe you wouldn't want this in your community? And I asked her those questions directly, and I tried purposely not to make it super easy on her. And we went through those together. And at the end of it, it was just so clear that she had thought this through so thoroughly, and they had such a good plan in place that I had no reservations about supporting it wholeheartedly. Yeah. And it's around the corner from my house. Mm-hmm.
So did you ever think about state or a federal office or anything, or was it always municipal?
It was always municipal for me, Ogden's home, and I think this is where we can really dig in and do some of that grassroots work to help our city and help those who are closest to us. So, yeah.
And so what are some of the issues you think deserve more attention?
For me, number one priority is affordability. The city has gone through a time of economic boom. And they've actually, over the last 10 years, the revenue has increased $110 million. And during that same time, I think a lot of people in Ogden have been feeling the squeeze from inflation, the squeeze from rising property taxes, the squeeze from our increased water bill. And now, with paid parking is coming to downtown, it's even going to make our date night more expensive. And I think when those are the conditions on the ground, the city should be laser focused on helping make our lives more affordable and more livable. And the affordability part comes down to making sure we're making the right kinds of investments in our people. And the livable part is improving the places where we want to spend our time. That's the parks and the pools and the playgrounds. And I think that we can reshape Ogden by reshaping its priorities.
When you picture yourself having an impact, what kind of things are it? How is it that government can step in and make some of this stuff better?
Well, I think there's a few things I look back on. One, just my experience with coaching a Little League baseball team. You put systems in place, and you watch them work. And over time you can see the progress happen. And as long as your priorities are straight up front, that's one of the things we've done with youth baseball, is what are our top priorities? And our top priorities for youth baseball are to create skills that scale. Meaning, as we look in the future of these kids, when they're going to have to go from playing on a little field to playing on a full-size field in junior high, what skills did they need at that time, right? And that is they need to throw the ball hard and they need to be able to hit the ball hard, because it's much more difficult to do those things on a bigger field. So in the city, it's about setting those priorities up front. What is the most important? And for me, it's about community building. So you think about an opportunity cost. When we had the opportunity to buy five extra acres onto Grandview Park, right? At that time, it would have cost $2 million to buy that property. We could have turned Grandview Park into the gold standard 10-acre park that it should be. And instead, we passed on that. We let it go out to development. And then now, because we don't have that piece of property, they have to build a parking lot there. So we're going to shrink our 4-acre park down to a 2.5 or 3-acre park because we have to put asphalt down. And that's just missed opportunity for improving the spaces that everyday people can get to experience in their daily lives, where community comes together, they interact with one another, and really build a community that thrives. So setting those priorities and setting those values up front are ways in which I think we can really make a difference.
So talk about some people or organizations that you think are doing important work around here.
Well, I mean, I think Weber Human Services does really important work. That was actually part of the Aspen House. Weber Human Services was an organization that was going to be able to take over and possibly do the same project at the Aspen House. And state representatives got involved in that whole process, and in collaboration with administration, ended up shutting down that whole process. I think Goal Foundation is a wonderful nonprofit in our area that just does incredible work. I get to participate sometimes in different projects that they're doing, whether it's loading buses for the marathon or they've got a really cool event, a mountain bike running event called The Nut that happens in the fall up at North Fork Park. And those are events. Talk about community building when people come together, and do really important work. And then there's so many. Youth Impact, Boys and Girls Club. I don't want to leave anybody out. There's so many really important organizations that are doing good work.
Yeah. All right. What about shouting out some local businesses? What are some of your favorite places to go to patronize?
Oh, yeah. I mean, restaurants. It's Table 25 downtown. I just it's sort of just a really good dining experience. But my favorite go-to, particularly lunch spot, is Sonora Grill. People have no idea. The Sonora Grill lunch menu is cheaper than Chipotle. I kid you not. And it's fantastic food and great people, and just really appreciate the things they're doing down there for sure.
Great. And then last, I just want to ask, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to find out more about what you're doing?
Definitely tune in to Kevin for Council on Instagram, and the website, kevinforcouncil.com as well. One of the things that I've always tried to do is make politics and city policy more accessible. And that's what I do through my social media feed. I've been doing this before I was a candidate, which is just helping people get informed. It's one of my promises I plan on making if I were to get elected, is that any policy, any vote that happens in city council that is not unanimous is a vote that I will come in. If there's some disagreement on council, I'll come in and I'll explain what the issue is that we're voting for. I will explain my position because I think people deserve to not just know how their representative votes, but I think they deserve to know how they think. Because when they know how they think, they're able to know how they're going to vote in the future, what their policies and things are going to be in the future, and that's really important. And it's so inaccessible right now. If you can't even ask ChatGPT what the vote was on the Wonder Block project and have it come back to you because of the way it's kind of buried inside the website. It won't even pull it. So it is it's quite inaccessible right now, and that's something I want to improve on. There's transparency is really important to me. I think back to both of my kids were adopted, and when we were going through that process, we knew that someone who was going to hand their baby to us and ask us to be their parents, we knew that they deserved to get to know us, and not just through our little one-page profile that we had, but in a much deeper way. And so that meant personal interactions and one-to-one meetings. That meant also opening up our social media accounts being public, so they could look back in our history and they could see who we are. And that's still the case today. I will be and am a transparent person, open to being able to be, available, seen, heard, and even yelled at if you need to. That's part of the job for sure.
Great. Go to oneogden.com to view written responses to candidate questionnaires from all the municipal candidates we've interviewed, and to find interviews from other candidates in Ogden, North and South Ogden, and Roy. Please share our interviews with your friends and encourage them to cast an informed vote, and subscribe to the One Ogden podcast to hear all the other Ogden stories we've been digging up.